So the new She-Hulk Disney Plus series is out, and the first episode was pretty underwhelming for me. There wasn't anything to hook me in, and I'll get more into the plot in a little bit. But first, I wanted to quickly explain the origin of She-Hulk, which they do change for the MCU. So contrary to popular belief, She-Hulk was not created to be a feminist icon. She was created so that Marvel Comics would have the sole rights to She-Hulk. At the time, the studio Universal was making the live-action Hulk series with Lou Ferrigno, and had planned on creating a female Hulk, which would have given them the rights to the character. So Stan Lee and John Buscema create the She-Hulk in 1979, giving her her own comic, which was and is still extremely rare for a brand new character. So you have Savage She-Hulk, issue number 1. Bruce Banner is the Hulk. He's on the run as he usually is. He meets up with his cousin Jennifer Walters, who's a criminal lawyer. He confides in her that he is the Hulk, and she drives him back to her house so they can talk more. Once they get there, she is shot in the back by a hitman working for a mobster that she is currently prosecuting in court. Realizing that she's losing a lot of blood and that an ambulance won't make it in time, he decides to give her an emergency transfusion. Afterwards, he sneaks her into a hospital and then leaves because he is a fugitive from the law, and Jen later wakes up as the She-Hulk. In the show, Bruce is not on the run. This is post-Avengers Endgame, and he is in human form because apparently he can't heal his arm in Hulk form, his arm having been injured when using the Infinity Gauntlet. He's also got a device on his arm that keeps his transformation under control. So he's just out on a road trip with Jennifer Walters when a Sakaran ship shows up in front of them. They swerve off of a cliff, and Jen saves Bruce instead of it being the other way around, and while she's pulling him out of the car, she gets some of his blood in a wound that she has. She turns into She-Hulk, wakes up near a bar where she is captured by Bruce. He takes her to his lab/beach bar in Mexico that was built by himself and Tony Stark, where he tells her that she is now a Hulk and her whole life is going to change. He tries to train her to control her changes and set her up for success, but it turns out that her blood heals his arm, that she doesn't have to deal with an alter ego, and so she can control her transformations at will, and she is also just about as strong as Bruce is in this form. So she spends the majority of the episode blowing him off and or shoving his past in his face, and then she goes back home to live her life as a lawyer, and the episode ends with her prosecuting some guy. The female villain Titania, a woman with super strength, busts in and tries to take down She-Hulk, doing some Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon type shit before she is knocked out easily by She-Hulk in what is a very poorly edited scene. So that was the quick and dirty summary of the episode. Now I'll get to some of the details, things I didn't like, things I did like, and things I would improve. So we only got into about 10 minutes of the episode before Jen is already saying that she is a better Hulk than Bruce. And little quips like that are sprinkled all throughout the episode, and part of the reason it's so annoying is because Bruce just takes it. I really, really hate Smart Hulk. He's basically just Mark Ruffalo with a CGI body. He's not even really acting at this point. He even gets run over by a car later in the episode by Jennifer, which makes no sense at all given his strength. And then of course there's the scene where she tells Bruce that she is better at handling anger because she is a woman and she has to deal with catcalling and mansplaining. Now for those who would defend her argument, try to have some perspective for a second. She is sitting in front of the Hulk. Now, just by being a person that exists in this world, she knows what he's done in the past. But remember that she is also his cousin. It's likely that she knows his past a lot better than most. She would probably know that he was physically and verbally abused as a child, that his father killed his mother, that he spent years in hiding, too afraid to be close to his loved ones for fear of losing control. He spent years being hunted by his ex-girlfriend's dad. His life was so terrible that he tried to commit suicide but failed. During Thor Ragnarok, it was revealed that he lost 2 years of his life because the Hulk had taken over, and he bore the weight of bringing back half of all life in the universe and had to deal with the fact that he couldn't bring back Natasha, the woman he loved. Now, I think the writers looked at this scene and thought, if we can show that Jennifer feels confident enough to tell the Hulk of all people about these issues that she deals with a straight face, then the audience will recognize that these are really serious issues, and they'll recognize that She-Hulk is a strong woman and she'll be a better hero than the Hulk because she has to deal with men complimenting her on her looks. But that's the thing. She's telling this to the Hulk. So now I don't take her character seriously. I mean, for God's sake, in a world where half of all life was blinked out of existence, who gives a damn about catcalling? If you wanted to make her sound less whiny and tie her problems more into her character, you could have said that she knows how to handle her anger because when she is in the courtroom, she has to deal with hostile witnesses, or she has to defend someone that she knows did something wrong, but it's her job as a lawyer to convince the court that they aren't guilty. Similar to Matt Murdock in the Daredevil series. Now, would that compare to Hulk's problems? Still no, but it would have made her sound more reasonable and relatable. Now, I've been seeing a lot of argument on social media, a lot of people defending her words by saying, well, it's not a competition. She's not saying that Bruce didn't struggle by bringing up her stuff, but the writers made it a competition between the two. When they had her sit across from a man whose rage turned him into a big green monster and tell him that she is infinitely better at controlling her anger than him. No matter how I look at it, that's just a ridiculous statement. If you want me to take her seriously as a character, then you need to start treating her like a serious character. Stop with this nonsense dialogue and give her real problems to face so that we can watch her struggle and develop as a character. As it is right now, there doesn't seem to be a reason to continue watching the show. What problems is she going to face? She has her transformations under control and she's back to her life as a lawyer. Everything seems to be working out great, and that's boring. Hollywood seems to lack creativity when it comes to writing strong female characters. Either that, or they're just adverse to the idea of showing a strong woman struggle as much as a man would. The main character needs an arc. So far, she's started off as being selfish, shallow, and completely unwilling to consider that she should use her powers for good, which is in stark contrast to her comic book counterpart, who right off the bat saw the She-Hulk persona as a way to fight for justice in a way that she, as Jennifer Walters, couldn't. These writers or writer for the show just don't understand the character of the She-Hulk at all. Jennifer in the comics was such an unbelievably kind and loyal person, putting others' needs above her own. And even when facing a similar scrutiny that her cousin faced for being a Hulk, she still went out of her way to perform heroic deeds. I don't know how they're going to salvage this, and I think her character is going to remain stagnant for all 8 episodes. I'll definitely talk more about how she was introduced and portrayed in the comics after we've seen more episodes. The CGI, which has always been a big complaint since the very first trailer, was pretty much the same as you saw in the trailers. Her face just looks weird, and it's a weird contrast because the Hulk is in the exact same show, so I really don't get it. Titania looks nothing like she does in the comics, and I'm not just talking about race. She looks like a circus clown mixed with a wrestler mixed with a prostitute. And she gets taken out easily despite the fact that She-Hulk has no fighting experience outside of the short tussle with Bruce. Again, I don't understand how that's going to work for Jen's arc because I believe Titania shows up again. And how are you going to bring back Titania as a serious villain when She-Hulk took her out in 20 seconds? As for things I liked, there's not much, and this is going to be a backhanded compliment. But I think if they had taken out a lot of her cringy dialogue, I think there were a lot of fun parts in the episode. And that would have been the overall tone if it hadn't been for those moments that just took me out of it. There aren't really any Easter eggs. There is a post-credit scene, but it just has to do with Steve Rogers' virginity. I saw this headline of an article somewhere that said something like, Marvel finally settles the long-standing debate among fans over whether or not Steve Rogers was a virgin. And I just think, was anybody really debating that? Does anybody really care? I don't know about you guys, but I watch these movies to see superhero adventures. I really don't care who the characters are fucking. As for what I would have improved upon, I think I'll actually save that for the end of the series because they may change things to make it better. But if you've watched my reviews of every other Marvel or Star Wars Disney Plus series, it typically only gets worse. Overall, I think the rewatchability of this series is going to be non-existent. And I'm seeing that more and more as Marvel continues. But apparently in 2022, the heroine's journey is dealing with catcalling and mansplaining. So if you can get behind that, let me know in the comment section below. To cap this video off, I want to talk about a very serious issue, and that is inequality. Too many women in this day and age are still getting catcalled. In order for equality to be achieved, I think that more men need to be catcalled. So women, it's time for you to do your part in ending inequality. I'm going to need you to lower your standards a little bit and catcall at least 10 men a day. Catcalling 10 men a day and you could change the world. Self-esteem among men would rise exponentially. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content. I'll see you all next time. Bye.